Welcome to Conversation with Zaki Baruti, with your host Zaki Baruti. And like always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family. What's happening? To the Universal African Peoples Organization family, what's going on? And to New Life Evangelistic Center family headed by Reverend Rice. Keep up the great work. And a shout out to our amazing cameraman Bob. On that note, we don't have a great show, and probably this will be part one of a number of series with this my guest, who I am so honored and humbled that she's on our show. And she comes all the way from the island of Cuba. And she is a representative working in the Embassy of Cuba in Washington, D.C. And I'm speaking none other than Gabriela.
Hello.
Rodriguez. Welcome to Conversation with Zaki.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here today with you.
Okay, then. Most recently, as of yesterday and the day before yesterday, you were here in St. Louis as part of a program that we held on two programs, October the 22nd and the 23rd, and now you're here on the 24th, being taped in this great studio. First of all, how has the experience been?
Wow, well, the experience has been amazing. I think that at least for more than 15 years, none representative from the Embassy of Cuba has come to St. Louis. So it's a privilege and an honor to be the first one with my colleague Gretel Gomez, who is also here with me, to be the first ones in coming to St. Louis. And the welcoming that we have received, the opportunity of speaking with different organizations, people, representatives here from St. Louis has been amazing. This is an amazing city, an amazing place that will always be in our hearts, of course.
Well, again, St. Louis community really appreciated your remarks at every event that we held. And by the way, for our audience, she was here in attendance to one of our annual programs celebrating one of our heroes, the Honorable Malcolm X, also known as El Haj Malik El Shabazz. And our theme for that evening was Cuba, a connection with Black America. Mm-hmm. So on that note, before we get into the depths, because I want to use this opportunity to, as a former educator, Zaki Baruti means charitable teacher, I want to use this as a classroom opportunity for those who listen in. But first of all, how old are you? As well as, can you lay out some of the background, your personal background, living in Cuba?
Okay, so that's the age question is always a complicated question for a lady.
But I'm sorry, I can't help myself.
but I'm proudly 31 years old. Okay. This is my first assignment as a diplomatic abroad. My first permanent assignment has been here in the United States, and it has been challenging, but also very, very a very constructive personal experience for me. I was born in Cuba, in Havana City, the capital of my country, in a place named Buena Vista. Probably some people that are hearing the show know Buena Vista because of Buena Vista Social Club, which is a very famous musical band in Cuba that was known mainly in the 90s, formed by Black musicians mainly. So I was born there in the municipality of Playa. I studied in the University of Havana. I'm an alumni from the University of Havana and in history. I specialized in the history of Latin America, contemporary history of Latin America. And I started to work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2020, in the division of the United States in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I've been doing this work for at least 4 years, always in the same division, and I specialize in analysis. And here in the United States, I am in charge of the relations with the Afro-descendant community in this country.
Okay, then, and how has that experience for you, for the time that you've been here? How has that been?
Okay, so for a Cuban person, it's always, a little bit shocking knowing that you are coming to the United States for working and speaking about the revolution, taking in account the very complicated and challenging relations that we have always had with the government of the United States. But when you arrive to the United States, the first thing that you realize is that there is a big difference on the relations that you have with the government and the relations that you have with the people, and especially with the Black community here in the United States. I think that you were talking about Brother Malcolm X, and I hope we will be talking about this a little bit more after, but this special relation started in 1960, and the Black community here in the United States was the first ones who opened their arms to the Cuban Revolution, to the Cuban people. So every time I have the opportunity to speak with them directly, I feel a strong sense of community here in the United States.
Well, that's great. Now, you may mention you had the degree in history. Well, welcome to the history department. My degree is also in history.
Okay.
As well. Education administration as a master's. Now, in history, in terms of Cuba history, one of the most turmoil, controversial social change occurred in Cuba in 1959 with what is projected as the Cuban Revolution. From your perspective, can you share the root cause of the Cuban Revolution and the outcome so far, as a teaching lesson to people? And mind you, there have historically been a lot of revolutions. You had the American Revolution right here in this country in terms of folks supposed to have been upset with other folks. What happened in Cuba?
So, well, historically speaking, people like to say that the Cuban Revolution started in 1953 with a military action led by Fidel Castro and a group named 26 de Julio against the Cuartel Moncada barracks, the Moncada barracks in Santiago de Cuba, which is the second capital of my country. But, and the conditions that lead to that situation was a military coup performed by dictator Fulgencio Batista in Cuba. But the conditions in Cuba before
So Batista came to power as an extension of a coup?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then.
Yes,
right.
yes. He had a first government in the 40s, that was due to an election process. Okay. But in 1953, he performed a military coup, and that was one of the reasons why Fidel Castro, who was a young lawyer by that time, decided to organize a movement in order to overthrow Batista from power. So, but the conditions in Cuba...
Can you just hold that
yes.
point? We don't have to have a quick break and then...
Of course.
You want to keep that point?
Yes, of course, right. Absolutely.
Do you have any idea how many people are having to sleep outside? Yes, viewers of the Zaki Baruti Show, you are being called into action at this time. Your help is urgently needed here at the New Life Evangelistic Center. Our teams are going out every day, and we need your prayers. We need your gifts here because we receive no city, state, or federal dollars. How many times I have to personally run to the store in order to just buy meat and bread? People could be making sandwiches and bringing them to the doors here at 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. They could be buying cases of water and bringing them here so we can get these out to the homeless people. 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. They could write out those checks and send them in because we have to buy this. They're depending upon us. And not only that, they get bus tickets, hundreds and even thousands of bus tickets distributed to so many people who need transportation assistance. We can't do it without each and every one of you. It's New Life Evangelistic Center, P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166. You can give online at nlecstl.org. Your prayers are urgently needed at this time. Come on, you watch the Zaki Baruti Show. You hear about the various issues. Now it's important that we respond to those issues by helping so many people that have fallen through the safety nets in spite of the promises of the politicians. So many people are hurting right now. They're out there. They don't know where to go. What are they doing? I don't see hardly anything in St. Louis County, Jefferson County, St. Francis County. I can mention county after county, Madison County, St. Clair County. They want to ship them to St. Louis. St. Louis can't take care of all the problems. But we got to get all these other counties involved. In the meantime, we got to get your church involved. We need you. But let's get our churches involved. Let's reach out. Let's help those that Jesus referred to. The least of these, after you've done to them, you've done it unto him. Let's help them right now. Please get involved. Call us at 314-421-3020 or share that much-needed gift at P.O. Box 473, St. Louis, Missouri. That's 63166. You can give online at nlecstl.org.
When we contemplate the grace and the love that we see in Jesus Christ and His sacrifice on the cross, we naturally want to generously give to others. We should generously give because we so graciously and generously receive from the love and the power of God to set ourselves free from sin. Remember, Christian, it is so important to generously give as a witness of the gospel that you yourself have received in your own life. It is important to give to churches, not just money, but your time and your resources as well, recognizing what you yourself have received, because all things, all good things that we have come from our Father above. Give generously and joyfully.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In the studio with me is Gabriela Rodriguez, a representative from the Embassy of Cuba out of Washington, D.C. And on the other side of the break, we were at the point in terms of the history and that Castro, Fidel Castro, as a lawyer, originally as a lawyer, led a movement to overthrow Batista.
Yes.
Okay, and that he started that in what year?
In 1953.
In 1953, he started that process.
Exactly.
And then he became victorious exactly when?
He became victorious in 1959. But the thing is that I was trying to describe the conditions that Cuba had before 1959 that lead to the forming of this revolutionary movement in Cuba that began in 1953. But the assault on the attack on the Moncada barracks, Fidel Castro's movement was defeated, and they had to face prison for a long time in Cuba. And then they were liberated because of the pressure established by the people in Cuba in order to get them liberated, and they went to Mexico and reorganized that movement. But what was going on in Cuba, that is in the declarations that Fidel made in his trial after what happened in the Moncada barracks, he described the situation that justified what he did. And he said that Cuba by that time was controlled by less than 1% of the population that held in their hands all the wealthiest of the country, while the other 99% was suffering conditions of extreme poverty in my country. Lack of education, lack of health, no access to health, disemployment. I'm talking about 99% of the people, high levels of illiteracy in the country, high levels of poverty in the country. So that is why Fidel Castro and these young people decided to fight against Fulgencio Batista dictatorship that had that was supported by the American government by that time, that also had great economical interest in the island. But all these conditions were even before 1953 when the revolutionary movement started. It started earlier in 1899 when we defeated Spain and we had the American intervention, military intervention in our island. And after the American military intervention, they established a dominion, the United States established a dominion in Cuba, practically in the politics, in the economy in my country, through something that was named or titled the Platt Amendment, that was an appendix to the Cuban Constitution that was established in 1901. So the Platt Amendment established that Cuba was an independent state, but they had to, they were subjected to certain conditions of, submission to the government of the United States. They had to submit their political decisions. They established military bases in Cuba. They had the right to military intervene in Cuba every time that the United States considered that their interests were put in danger. So all of those conditions together were the one that many years after produced the 1953 movement, and then conducted to the 1959 process of the revolution in Cuba triumphing and getting into power.
Okay, thank you for that intense explanation. So at this time, we'll have to take another break.
So many people are hurting and hopeless. They feel despondent and in despair. They are living on the streets in conditions that are horrible and not suitable for any human being. And it takes so many loving people to walk alongside them and give them opportunities to change. Zaki Baruti and his show is exposing the people who are making a real difference in our community. And he's been a faithful partner of New Life Evangelistic Center for many years. And I want to invite you to be like Zaki Baruti and make an impact in someone's life today. You can love others well, and you can do it in a meaningful and powerful way. I am so thankful for people who have partnered like Zaki, and I just want to share some of the impacts that you're really making when you partner with New Life Evangelistic Center. You're offering 365 days of care for a woman in need who's fleeing domestic abuse. You're offering not just care, but discipleship and mentorship and training services for her. Not only are you doing that, you're also getting hygiene kits and survival gears into the hand of people who need them, who are living on the streets of St. Louis. Not only that, but you're caring for orphans and widows in India, and you're preaching the gospel in every single one of these places, India, Ukraine, and all throughout mid-Missouri. You're also helping hundreds of people each day in the day center in Springfield. You're making a real impact on the lives of hundreds every single day. And you do that when you partner alongside New Life Evangelistic Center, along with faithful partners like Zaki Baruti. How I thank God for people like you for change.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is the very intellectual and beautiful young lady from all the way from Cuba as a representative from the Cuban Embassy in Washington, D.C. On the other side of the break, you went very intense in terms of the history and the background as to how Fidel Castro came into power. And but currently, because we're going to jump forward, and then as you had explained, historically the United States had bases in Cuba prior to Castro coming to power, and they come into that country anytime they want to, and bully the people in essence. Is that what you say? That's a correct analysis?
Yes.
So you are here we're here in St. Louis as part of a program that we had again in the spirit of Malcolm X.
Yes.
And at the gathering, and we want to thank everybody who was in attendance. I think we had some amazing people that turned out in numbers. Many times we will show a video of Malcolm X's iconic meeting with Fidel Castro. Just again for history. We're doing a history class for our audience. Would you give the history behind Malcolm X and Fidel Castro interacting?
Of course. Yes. As you were saying, and we were talking about, the revolution came into power in 1959. And in 1960 was the first time that Fidel traveled to the United States to participate in the UN General Assembly, the first time that the revolutionary Cuba was speaking in the United Nations General Assembly. So they were supposed to stay in a hotel near the area of the Fifth Avenue. But the hotel started to do a campaign in order to not welcoming the Cuban delegation. Fidel and of course the entire Cuban delegation was very angry. They were saying, we are going to be at the UN even if we have to camp in the UN gardens in order for them to receive this. But fortunately, during that process,
and this is what year again?
1960.
All right.
1960. So during that process where they didn't know where they were going to stay here in the US, in New York, a member of the delegation, the story says that the member of a delegation received a note saying that you are welcome here at the Hotel Teresa in Harlem. And after a little bit of research, they knew that the person behind that note was Malcolm X. So Malcolm X not only received Fidel Castro and the Cuban delegation in Harlem and in New York City, but he also gathered a large group of people outside the hotel welcoming the Cuban delegation, mainly members
And
of
that
the
hotel was Hotel Teresa, and it was black-owned then, right?
Black-owned
Right,
hotel.
at that
Exactly,
time. Okay,
exactly. Yes, yes. So a large group of members of the Black community, the Latino community, the worker community here in the outside the Hotel Teresa welcoming Fidel. Fidel even said at the time, I mean, the warmth of this welcoming has made us feel like we were in Cuba. It was like that. And that is the conditions surrounding this beautiful meeting that they had, and that we consider the central stone of the relation that we have with the Black community here in the United States.
Now, thank you again for that info. Time is coming really close to an end.
Mm-hmm.
I see you have, did you enjoy yourself, first of all?
Yeah.
And you have a t-shirt on, and that t-shirt is Organization for Black Struggle, which is one of the sisters organizations working with the Universal African Peoples Organization. How did you receive that? And I had to, in our conversations, I said, doggone it, we should have had a t-shirt for you. But anyway, is that was a gift?
It was a gift. It
And-
was a gift by a brother from the organization. Yesterday we went in an event in the Jubilee Church, and we had the opportunity of speaking with members of different organizations and members of the community here in St. Louis. And they were gracious enough to give us this beautiful t-shirt that I'm wearing. But also the earrings that I'm wearing today are from the Griot Museum, which was another place that I had the opportunity to visit during my program here in St. Louis. So the welcoming has been amazing.
Well, that's good. And I want to thank our sister organization for supporting what we do. And we'll do, this is part one of a part two, because you're also here to lay out to the public some of the issues that's currently impacting Cuba and why it's important for everybody, black, white, in this country, to know what's going on. Can you highlight a couple of issues that you'd like to just quickly address, and we'll get into them in depth on our part two.
Of course. I think that the main issue that we need to address that perhaps could lead to others is the current blockade that Cuba has faced for more than 60 years, coming from the sanctions that are coming from the government of the United States, and the struggles that our people have due to these sanctions. I think that will be like the main thing that I would like to address today.
Okay then, and as you had explained that to the people, what did you perceive as their response? But we'll do that on the other side of the break.
Before we go back to our host and we'll continue to discuss very important community issues, I want to bring you this one that's heavy on my heart, and that's finding a place for homeless people to go, a low barrier walk-in shelter that anyone can come in at nights, like we used to have at 1411 Locust until the power brokers shut it down. The gentrifiers come in the neighborhood, they shut it down, and now you'll find homeless people all over the place. People are suffering out there. In addition to the thousands of people already homeless, there's another 1,000 people added to the ranks of the homeless as a result of the tornado of May the 16th. Please support the work of New Life Evangelistic Center in our endeavor to find another building that we can begin to a large low barrier walk-in shelter. We have many safe houses and also training centers, but we have to have a shelter like this. If you'd like to help us, call us at 314-421-3020. That's 314-421-3020. We need your help in locating and getting city or county officials to let us open such a facility. Please get involved, and please pray for this at this time.
Behind me is the New Life Evangelistic Center administrative offices in Overland, Missouri. And this is where we shoot our shows for our worship shows and the Here's Help Network. And it's also where Zaki Baruti and Bernie Hayes shoot their shows. You can find all of these shows at the New Life Evangelistic Center app, the NLEC TV app. You can also access them on your tablet or on your computer. And this is how you can stay up to date with all the things that New Life Evangelistic Center is doing. There are so many different programs that we've got going on, and God is doing many exciting things through partners like you. So if you want to support the work that New Life is doing, then please access and give through the app. You can go online at nlecstl.org or give us a call at 314-421-3020. Again, 314-421-3020. But this is the best way to get plugged into the amazing work that New Life is doing through people like you. And so there is something for you to get involved in today. And we are so thankful for our partners. Only through the grace of God and your gift are we able to bless others today.
Welcome back to Conversation with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is the representative from the Cuban Embassy out of Washington, D.C., a young lady that I have so much respect for, and that's Gabriela Rodriguez. On the other side of the break, I was asking, as you made your presentations to the different artists that you were in front of, what was your perception of the reception of the message that you were that the people were receiving from you?
Okay, so my perception was a great level of understanding and political education. That was my perception. A great level of disagreement of what the official policy of the government of the United States is right now against my country and has been for more than 60 years. So what I perceive is a lot of support for the people of Cuba, a lot of shared struggles, a lot of understanding on how this is not the kind of relation that they want to have with the people of Cuba.
Now, when you mention support for the Cuban people, in our own discussions, you know, in terms of, there are restrictions for going to Cuba that's placed on the people of the United States.
Yes.
From real quick, can people go to Cuba from the United States today, and what is the process?
Okay, so yes, you can go to Cuba from the United States, but you are not allowed to, as an American citizen, to go to Cuba to do tourism or just go freely yourself to the country. You have to travel in groups. You have to apply for one of the 12 categories or groups that they allow, the United States governments allow for traveling to Cuba. One of them is support the Cuban people, as we were talking now. And also another thing that impacts a lot the traveling of American citizens to Cuba is a list that is stated by the State Department of the United States that doesn't allow American citizens to stay in certain hotels and places in my country. So probably the best hotels and the best places in Cuba are banned for American citizens, not from the government of Cuba, but for their own government here in the United States, unfortunately. But yes, you can travel to Cuba, yet to support the Cuban people for academic exchange, for cultural exchange, also for religious exchange as well. So yes.
Okay, on that note, I really appreciate you being here. And again, for our audience, this is part one of a two-part series. So please share with others this video so that it hits all across this country and into Cuba and throughout the world. On that note, as always, I encourage everybody that you need to belong to an organization that has a history of speaking truth to power and working to uplift humanity. We say join the Universal African Peoples Organization, as well as I'm proud to announce that out of our discussions, we will be forming a committee to support the Cuban people. And we'll get on the other side as to how the other interview of how to support the Cuban people. On that note, as I close, at every election, know the issues, and go out and vote, and may God bless each and every one of you.